Testing 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Is good? All right. Let's try this all over again. All right, welcome to Level Up Session 1. Wow, you're almost as excited as when I first said it. Actually, some of you actually sound a lot more awake at the second time. All right, how many of you are brain fried from the cognitive function teaching yesterday? Everybody. Okay, good. I know there were some comments online about the blue marker, so to speak, the blue color not coming out. I don't understand your comments. It must be your screen, because I looked at it, I played it back. It was fine. I don't know what that problem was. So I don't know what it was on your end. Maybe it was just when it was live broadcasting, but the recording looks fine. Also, for those of you that wanted a copy of the notes, they're now on the MTOI website under resources, okay? So you can have that. I haven't had a chance to print out any more of them, but I know some people wanted to print out. I'll see if I can get a few for you guys for later or sometime during the week. But in the meantime, it is available on the MTOI website under the Resources tab, under Cognitive Functions, okay? There's 2 of them there, so everything's there. All right. So Level Up. Okay, so this is a program that I put together a few years ago, and it was inspired by the fact that I think that, well, my son playing video games, and of course the thing you do in a video game is you try to go up levels, right? And I thought, what about in our lives? What if we were playing in a video game and you need to level up your life? Now, of course, in the video games, you're really looking at one aspect, right, of your life. In the game, you're trying to figure things out, or you're battling or something like that. But in life, we have all these different areas that we try to, deal with, right? We call them the 7 areas of life, right? We have, let me see if I can pull out my sheet here real quick with that. I've got too many papers. All right, so we talk about the 7 areas of life, like spiritual, physical, like your health and stuff, activity, financial, mental, emotional, relational, and community, okay? So wouldn't we want to maybe raise those up to a higher level, okay, improve the level that we're at? And so I came up with a program, and we did charge for that program. Well, I did. It was something I did privately from MTOI. It was separate, right? And now we're making it available to all of you free of charge. Now, here's the caveat. This is my challenge. If you took the class yesterday on cognitive functions, you can understand that I'm having an NE meltdown as a extroverted intuition, because I have now to take something I did in 6 sessions, about 4 hours each, and condense it into 6 sessions, an hour and a half each. So I'm being limited and restricted. See, that's why I like doing teachings, that I just teach until the clock says it's enough, and I stop the teaching, and then we continue it the next time. Don't have that freedom today, so we're going to try to squeeze a bunch of stuff in. So with that being said, I've unlocked that strain, and I said, basically what we're going to do is do as much as we can. It'll be a lot of it will be sort of the bullet points, overview, main points, and then we're going to put the actual sessions I did before on the website, and you can watch the full 4-hour sessions for the 6 sessions, all right? Because there's no way we can do what I did here in the tight window. Plus, I did want to make sure to give you guys time to ask questions at each of the sessions if possible, or at least we're doing back-to-back sessions, so maybe at the end of the second one, right? We're going to do one this morning that goes till about 11:30, then we're going to switch to the next one, and they'll do that till 1. Somewhere in there, I'm going to give you time to ask questions, okay? So, let's start off with this. For how many of you, now this whole thing falls into the area of personal development. So how many of you have never really taken a personal development class? Any new people? Awesome. All right. The rest of you have taken it before. How many of you haven't taken one in at least a year? Have not taken one in at least a year? 5 years? 10 years? Okay? So it's been a while. All right. Well, welcome to coming back to personal development. Okay? All right. So self-improvement is a lifetime pursuit and journey. Okay? And so I've always felt like what we're here for like us existing in a more vertical, like above context, scriptural context, creator context, is that we're all trying to level up to the Yeshua level. I mean, we're transforming and conforming into that image, and we do that with the same processes essentially that we do to level up any area of our life, okay? And so people will attack a little bit and pick on me because I teach a lot of personal development from Scripture in the Saturday teachings and Shabbat teachings. I think the whole point of us being here is personal development. We're personally developing into Him. That's kind of the point. And so self-improvement or leveling up comes from self-educating, training, and guidance, okay? Now, all of this, again, I don't have notes for you to hand out. I had a lot of notes to hand out at the class when I first did it. All those PDFs will be available to you after I tweak them, because some of them are dated in a way that, I think I only had 5 areas of life then. I'm doing 7 now, and so I have to edit some of these things to make them more up to date. But so this thing that we're doing, okay, it takes self-educating, training, and guidance. It takes an understanding that this is an individual activity, right? This is something you're doing yourself. You can be, you're doing it in a group setting, some of it, because you might want to improve some of things like relationships and community and that kind of stuff. But really, this is an individual activity. This is not something that you're doing as a team, although you could ask somebody in one of the areas you're working on to encourage you or to help you assess yourself and those kind of things, right? But it's an individual activity, which means that nobody can do it for you. Okay, only you can do this, right? All right, now, this is about the levels. This is really important. This is about the levels you want to reach. Now, the one level in the one area, the spiritual level, is preset for you. In other words, the target is Yeshua. All the other levels, they're up to you. Go as high as you want to go. Keep moving up the levels, right? So they're what you want to reach, not what anybody else wants you to think you should reach, okay? Okay, my purpose is to help you figure out where you are, how you got there, decide where you want to go, and help you get there. I'm going to help you decide where you want to go. I'm not going to decide for you, okay? And then how to get there, okay? I will not be choosing or setting your levels. Now, some people are already panicking. Personal development, doesn't that get all new agey and like you're taking Yahweh out of everything? No. I just told you, this is all the same as what Yahweh wants us to do, is to level up. He wants you to have better health and physical levels, right? He wants you to have better emotional levels and mental levels and relational levels and social levels, community levels, financial levels, right? All those things are in His interest and in His plan. So we're not taking Yahweh out of the picture. We are simply going to focus on the aspects of our lives that He expects us to own and do something with. All right, so you have to own this. Now, to get the most out of this program, you're going to need to be open and honest and grounded in reality. Okay? Now, when I'm saying open and honest and grounded, I'm talking about you looking at you that way. If you're not going to look at yourself in an open and honest way, you're not going to be able to see where you're at properly, and then you're not going to be able to aim at your target properly. It would be like, for example, let's say I decided, okay, right now I'm in Cleveland, Tennessee, and let's say I wanted to be in Texas, all right? So Texas is west, all right? And so from here, I would head west. But what if I really am not in Cleveland, Tennessee? I'm just convincing myself I'm in Cleveland, Tennessee. And let's say instead I was in, like, I don't know, Minnesota or Illinois, and I would really need to go south. But wait, but I want to go to Texas. But going to Texas from here is not the same as going to Texas from there. So you have to be honest about the starting point. You can't really pick the target and where you want to go until you're honest about where you are. Okay, so we're going to need you to be very honest, brutally honest with yourself. Not brutal in a mean way, just no nonsense, right? No BS, just what it is, right? Okay. Let's see. This is not a quick fix. So you don't necessarily pick your next level as your ultimate, where you need to be. You might want to go to a step, and then a step, and then a step, okay? And do it over a series of levels. I'm not going to solve all of your issues today, or even within the context of the class. We're not fixing everything today. But we're hopefully going to at least get you to start thinking about how to fix everything and start choosing a path that fixes those 7 areas, right? Or at least gets them to where you want them to be. I'm going to help you to understand what your issues and challenges are and develop strategies to address them so you can reach the next level and ultimately have the success you desire. All right? There'll be moments for sharing and asking questions. That's for the class. Okay, let's see. So what I want to do is I want to make sure you understand my qualifications, okay? Because you're like, well, why are you teaching this? Well, I've been doing this to a large degree since I was probably about 13 to 15 years old. I can't remember what the age was exactly, all right? My father was my parents were in Amway. They were in a multi-level marketing business. And one of the kind of, core points of the business was that they gave you lots of personal development tapes and things to listen to and books to read to kind of help you become the type of person that could run a business, so you have belief in yourself and you knew what to do and you had confidence, all these other things. And so I was introduced to those kind of books like, Think and Grow Rich, okay? It's sort of the godfather of the books of those kind of things, right? And I had listened to all these tapes. Now, it wasn't so much about the business of the business, but about you becoming the person that could be successful doing whatever it is. And I even listened to those kind of tapes for years because I could apply them to any business or anything I was doing because it didn't need to be a specific vehicle. I was the one driving the vehicle, okay? And so that was really important. So I started studying, and then I realized that this was going to be incredible going forward if I could do this consistently. So over the years, I've read books, I've listened to tapes, watched videos, gone to live seminars, okay, throughout, I'm 62 now, so you can figure that out, right? So that's been a good 45 plus years, all right? And I've been doing this. I don't think it would be too far off to say I know this better than I even know Scripture. I've been studying it longer, okay? And so this is an area that I feel very confident that I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, all right? Just so you know, I didn't just kind of pull this out of my whatever, okay? I've got a lot of years of living it, researching it, doing it. Everything I'm going to tell you about, everything I'm going to encourage you to do, I have done. Okay? Actually, you know what? Rule number 1 in trying to be successful in any area of your life, don't listen to anybody that hasn't done it. Don't listen to anybody that doesn't already have what you want. Don't listen to anybody that, doesn't have the credentials. Okay? They need to be somebody who's going to tell you what to do. Are they doing it themselves? Okay, these are all things that I do. All right. All right, so one of the things I want you to do, and I had a paper for that, but we're not going to do that today. We don't have time for that. But I want you to really think about why you're here. I know you're here because it's Sukkot, and we're doing the class and everything, but what are you wanting out of this? What are you hoping to, okay, get out of this? Now, by the way, what I don't want you doing today in this class, I don't want you writing anything down. Recorded, okay? Now, if you have a thought that comes to you that you just need to jot down because it's your thought, and you don't want to forget it, do that, right? But you don't have to write down anything I'm saying. You can go back and watch it again. Not a problem. Okay, now, because I really want you to be immersed this way. I want you to be really receiving and listening, okay? But you need to be really clear if you're going to do this journey, why? Okay, I was clear when I was 13, 15 years old. I heard these really successful, very wealthy people talk about, this is how I became that way. And what I kept hearing was, it wasn't just the business specific, but by becoming the type of person that would be successful at any business, okay? And I wanted to be successful. I wanted what they had. And so I realized I needed to work on me, okay? Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N, Jim Rohn's probably one of the older, teacher, trainers, personal development. He trained most of the guys you would think of today, like a Tony Robbins, and those guys were all trained by Jim Rohn. Okay, they worked for him for a little while. You know, one of the things he says is, if you're going to go put 40 hours a week into your boss's life, why wouldn't you put at least 40 hours a week into your life? Some of you are like, that's 80 hours. I do that every week anyway. Okay? 80 hours. You know, you don't need to be spending as much time on the phone or other things. Put time into you. Let's see. All right, so I want to go over a few things here. So we're going to go over first what's called the level up process, all right? And I'll write it up on the board here as I get my paper out. All right, let's see. And for everybody online, we'll use black. All right, so this is the level up process, all right? I'm going to use no, I thought I was using the right one. Okay, here we go. That's better. The level up process, okay? All right, so in the level up process, the first thing you're going to do is assess, okay? That's number one. So whatever it is, we got to first assess where are we now, where we're starting. You got to know your starting point, okay? Because your starting point in one area may be like way at the bottom. In another area, you're already pretty good, but you want to go more. You got to really assess first, right? You start off with assessing. Then you choose a target. Okay, I don't like calling them goals necessarily, but targets. You're aiming at something, okay? You're going to choose your target, okay? Then we're going to do prepare, educate, train, and develop. This is where all the hard work is, right? Train, develop. All right, train and develop. Okay? And then guess what you're going to do? You're going to implement the plan. Okay? The strategies, whatever you developed over here. And then guess what happens? You take from here, you go right back to the top, and you reassess. All right? Then you choose a new target, or you re-choose the same target, because maybe you did all this and you didn't get anywhere. So you got to go reassess. Choose your target, prepare, educate, train, develop, implement the plan, right? Implement the plan or the strategy. Okay, you're going to implement it, then you're going to reassess. Now, probably a good idea, and it's not in this list here, but you know what's a good idea? Is that in between assessing and choosing your target in this prepare, educate part, how about go talk to somebody? Find a mentor. Okay? Because with that mentor, after you do all this implementation, you go back to do this, you go back to your mentor and say, okay, let's look at what we did. This is what we chose to do. This is how the results we got. It worked. It didn't work. It worked to some degree. Okay? But this is your level up process. Okay? This is where you are now, right? This is the typically, right? The X in the box, right? That's where you are now. Where do you want to go? That's your destination. I'll be using these things this way with a D for destination, right? Okay? And then you're going to figure out, okay, if that's where I want to go, what do I need to do? What do I need to learn? What do I need to know? What do I need to change? I need a plan. I need a strategy. Develop that here and then implement, okay? That's your level up process. All right, you know what? I'll leave that on the screen. We'll go to another screen. All right. So then we have what's called the destination cycle. This is the stuff that's going to affect your ability to get where you want to go, right? Okay, you guys have all heard me teach this. You'll recognize it, right? So it all starts off with thoughts, all right? And then it goes to what's next? Emotions. that get connected to the thoughts. Then actions take place, which lead to habits. And then your destination. Destination, right? Now, so when we talked about the process on the other screen, well, you know what? That's not going to work unless you get a hold of this thing. Okay, this is your destination cycle. You want to get to a target? If you don't have this under control, you're not going anywhere. The destination. Now, I want to show you how this is important that we reverse engineer this. Because if you reverse engineer this, it's going to be, let's kind of put this here. This is how you go to a new destination. Okay, this is how you got to your current destination. Okay? So what happened here is, okay, you have your current destination here, right? Which was because of habits that you had, which is because of actions that you took. It was about emotions and thoughts. Okay? You are exactly where your thoughts, emotions, actions, and habits has taken you. All right? That's really important that we understand this. I guess I'll leave that paper there. Okay. So, in order to really work this through, you have to understand how you got to where you are. Okay? You got there this way. Okay? The destination one on the left, that's how you got there. Your thoughts, you had some ideas, right? You had some thoughts. Emotions got attached to them because those are the ones we take action on because we like it, we don't like it, this, that, whatever. We take action on an emotion-connected thought. Those actions, when repeated over time, become a habit. Those habits lead you to a destination. So where you are in your relationships, that's why. Where you are in your finances, that's why. Where you are in your health, that's why. Don't blame the president or the government or the neighborhood you grew up in or your parents or whatever, okay? Different thoughts connected with different emotions lead to different actions, lead to different habits, lead to a different destination, okay? If you can't own this, you can't fix this, okay? I'm not trying to get you mad at yourself and make you depressed, but you are exactly where you put yourself. And some of you are like, oh, but you didn't understand my... No. You could have made different choices and been in a different place. Whatever your situation is, I can find you somebody out there that's already got a podcast or a book or something showing that their life was the same as yours or worse, and they figured it out. They made different thoughts, different emotions, different habits, actions, habits, and they ended up in a different place. Okay, this whole thing with personal development is not complicated. It's not like trying to figure out the code of the Myers-Briggs, okay? This is not, a magical, complicated formula or something. It's very simple, okay? So you have a thought, I'm an idiot, all right? And your emotions get connected to that. So you take actions that are based on the fact that you think you're an idiot. Or you think you can't do something. Well, then you can take actions that demonstrate and make you don't want yourself to be a liar, right? You don't want you to be a liar, so you're going to do actions that prove that whatever you think about yourself is true. You think you can or you think you can't, you're right either way. Because your belief is what makes the difference. If you think you can't, you can't. Not that you really can't, but you've blocked yourself from being able to do it. This is a battlefield of the mind problem, okay? This is an internal problem that then eventually manifests into some external actions, but it's the outside actions that are representing the inside stuff. Okay, it starts on the inside. Okay, you have to have the stuff going on the inside. All right, now, let's see. I forgot I needed the microphone. All right, so I like to use the mall map thing, the you are here, like you're in the mall. And most of you guys have seen me talk about that before, right? So usually on the map, there's an X. Okay, there's an X. You are here. Okay? So you're there. And then you're sitting here, and the first thing you want to figure out is, do I want to be here? Is this where I want to be? Because maybe you're good in that area. Okay, you might be looking at your relationships, and they're actually good. All right, so I actually don't mind being here. But what if you don't really like being there? Well, then you got to pick someplace else to be. Now, a lot of you will get very self-defeated and all this other stuff where you'll be like, well, I guess I'm just stuck here. Well, probably not. There's still probably things you can do. So then you got to decide, well, I'd rather be over here. Okay, I think I'd like to be over there. But you got to go from here to here somehow, okay? So that's going to take different thoughts, different emotions, okay? Different actions, different habits, and that leads you to there, okay? So it's the choosing what this stuff looks like that takes the assessment process, right? You assess where you are. You got to get some educating and planning and all kind of stuff to figure out. Once you know where you want to go, I got to figure out how to get there. My relationships are terrible. All right, maybe you need to go study something on relationships. Okay? Maybe you got boundary issues. You let people step all over you. Maybe you have boundary issues, you step all over other people. All right? Maybe you got unresolved anger issues or pain or hurt or whatever, right? So, same thing with your health. Maybe your eating needs to be fixed. I'm not even just saying if you're overweight. You could be in a whatever you might consider perfect enough weight, but your health isn't right because you're still not eating right. Okay? All right, so you got to recognize and start with the first part, which is you got to recognize this part right here. You got to really do a good job of realizing, where am I? Where am I in this thing? Okay? You are here. That's really important, right? So what I got in my notes here. You are at the level that matches the current you. Okay? You're at the level that matches the current you. You got you here. Now realize, if it's the you that got you there, that means it's the you that has to change to get you somewhere else. All right? Remember, you're at the level that you believed you needed to be at. And you're like, I didn't choose this. Well, you did. Not maybe consciously, but you did. Okay? You can argue against it if you want, but it's not going to change the fact that it's still true. All right? You got you there, which also makes it really cool because then you can fix it. If you're the problem, you're the solution. The current you is the result of your current and previous destination cycles. Remember the destination cycles, right? Okay, so you went through thoughts and emotions and actions and habits, and that's why you had a series of destinations that ultimately led you to where you are now. Okay, because, we could do this way and say, okay, so at some younger age, you were here, and that took you to this destination, and then took you to this destination, and eventually it took you to this last one, which is where you are right now. Okay? So you started here, but guess what? If we're going to assess, and this is where you are now, this becomes this. And then you start choosing those. Does that make sense? All right? But there was a series of things that, okay, you were a kid, and then you were a teenager, and then you were a young adult, and then you were a little bit older adult, and then you got married and had kids. Right? All these different destinations were part of that one of those 7 areas of life, right? Wherever you are now, though, that then becomes an X, and then you get to choose where you want to go next. You get to choose, okay? All right. To reach the next level, you must become the you that matches that level. Fix the height on that. All right, you need to become the you that matches the level. What kind of you do you need to be to have a great marriage? Or if you're single, to get married, to become a great wife or husband, a great catch. What kind of you is healthy? What kind of you do you have to become that is financially sound, okay, and stable? What kind of, or even thriving, right? What kind of you do you have to become? Just fill in all those 7 areas. Remember, it's not about figuring out how to mechanically do these things. You have to change. The mechanics are actually not the problem. If you change, the mechanics will come with that. All right? So if you see yourself as broke, it's going to be hard to be wealthy. Now, if you're broke and see yourself as wealthy, that's actually a lot easier to do. You can figure out how to fix that, right? Now, I said, why are you at the level you're at? We already talked about this because it's you. Now, this is important as to really understanding why you're still where you are. Why are you at this level? Not how did you get there, but why did you stay there? Like, why are you at this level? Listen now. Your current level in all areas is your tolerance level. Okay? It's your tolerance level. To move up, staying where you are must become intolerable. Okay? Because you know there's things in your life that when they got to that point, you're like, I'm done. You fixed it. Okay? Whatever it was, when you got to that level of like, that's it, I'm done. This is not happening anymore. I'm fixing this. You did. You know, most people, this is my experience, I could be wrong. Most people I know that quit smoking didn't use a patch or a this or a that. They just quit. And you know how they quit? It became intolerable to smoke. So when people tell me, oh, I tried quitting, well, because you didn't succeed. If you didn't succeed, you didn't succeed for one reason. It wasn't intolerable enough. You like the idea of quitting because you know it's healthier to quit and all that, and you didn't like the idea of maybe getting cancer or something, but yet you keep smoking. Why? Because you're still tolerating it. Anything, your finances, your relationships, your vertical spiritual life, whatever, anywhere you are that's not really where you want to be, you're stuck there until you decide this is no longer tolerable. Okay? It takes that kind of a drive, especially if you're kind of stuck in a spot. Okay, some of the destinations are just transient, right? I want to go from, let's say I'm broke, and I want to eventually get to wealthy. I'm going to draw you another chart. All right, this is a new one I've been using lately, okay? We all are familiar with the graph. In the graph, the center is what? 0, right? Okay, down here is what? Negatives. Up here, positive, okay? This side usually is negative. That side would be, so really the only positive is up here. Correct? All right, now, so let's say in your relationships, you're a dot, right? These dots are how we kind of put ourselves on a graph. We're a dot, all right? So you're over here at minus something. So your first goal is to get to here. That's a destination. You want to get to 0. Now, if you want to find another by the way, to get there, you may have to make some stops along the way. These are other dots, okay? Make them bigger. Okay, here's one, and then here's one, and then here's one. Now, I made it very straight up, but usually it doesn't go straight up like that, right? In life. So when I say destinations, when I'm talking about tolerance, you will get stuck somewhere if you tolerate it. Does that make sense? Okay? So a lot of you are working up to 0. That's fine. You got to get there first. So let's say you're broke. Well, I want to be able to pay all my bills, and maybe I don't have anything left over at the end of the month, but I'm paying all my bills. That's 0. Okay? But then, hey, I'd like to have a little bit of extra so I can go out and eat sometime in a nice place. Okay? So that's maybe up here somewhere, right? You got to move up a little by little. Okay? All right. So let's understand this idea of tolerance. You know, people that are very successful are always looked at as, well, you're obsessed, or you're this, you're that, you're crazy. Well, it takes a little bit of that. But it takes it from a right perspective. You have to really want it badly to get unstuck and to move forward. See, a lot of you guys have not yet generated enough, drive. Okay, this is not called motivation necessarily. You got to find it from the point of view of like, do you really want to be somewhere else? If you do, because I've got a lot of people telling me how awful it is where they live or something. I said, so move. Oh, I can't move. Why can't you move? People move every day. I can't afford to move. People who can't afford to move every day. Okay? See, always ask yourself the question, Do other people with my same sort of situation, do they find ways to do it? And if the answer is yes, then why can't you? Why can't you? Well, it's a lot of work. A lot of work, okay? If you look at anybody successful in anything, do you think it just happened by like osmosis or something? I mean, they worked their you-know-what off to get there. It's a lot of work. If you know anybody with a great marriage, they are doing a lot of work. You can't have a great marriage without work, okay? Anybody tells you, oh, my wife and I or my husband, we just never fight or anything, and like, you guys are not married, okay? Not that you should be fighting and awful, but it should be challenging because it's hard to do the work and stay on your game all the time. And you let it slip, and then the marriage has a moment. Now, if you can get right back on your game, the moment was just a moment. Of course, if you have more of those moments than you have not moments, now you have a problem in your marriage, okay? But you have to get to that point where you understand this is going to be hard. I don't know if there's a difference between hard and difficult. I don't think it's difficult, meaning I don't think that it's like real complex and you can't figure it out. It's hard because it's going to go against the person you are now doesn't do these things, right? The person you are now doesn't think that way, feel that way, act that way, have those habits. So that's going to be hard. You've got to change. Change is hard. Okay? I mean, treating your spouse differently, it's not difficult, but it's hard because you're not used to doing it. It's hard because you had all these years of doing it a different way. So let's see. We'll use that as a difference between difficult, all right, and hard. Hard is just meaning it's going against your default, where you are right now, your default. Well, it's not my default. Yes, it is. Okay, so... All right? So let's keep that in mind. Now, when I was talking about this being intolerable, right? So in other words, you are, quote unquote, okay with where you are. To level up, being where you are cannot be okay. So if I ask you, how you doing? Okay. No, that sucks. That's terrible. Don't say that. I'm okay, but I'm working on going to get to better. Okay, that's good. I'll deal with that. I'm all right, but I am working on it. See, don't get comfortable and complacent with I'm okay in whatever area of life. It's all right. I can pay my bills, sort of, and whatever. I can live on peanut butter. I mean, and ramen noodles. It's just, come on. All right? All right, let's see what else I got here. Okay, so now we're going to get to... So the question when you're stuck is, again, you have to ask the question, how did I end up here? So you go back to the reverse engineering, right? I got here because of habits, actions, emotions, thoughts. That led me to here. Here's another thing that you need to understand as I gave you that cycle. It's not immediately effective. In other words, you don't change you and your destination just because you had one day of different thoughts and different actions. All right? It takes time. Over time, that's why I put the word habits in there before destination. Habits is actions repeated consistently over time, okay? So this does take time. There's no quick fix. I think I said that at the beginning, okay? There's no quick fix. I did. All right. So here's the thing that makes this all work. The driver, okay? The driver is the why, all right? Why do you want to leave the level you're at? Why? What about it don't you want to stay? Why? Why is it intolerable? And why do I want to go to the next level? Why did I pick that spot? Because a lot of you are where you are. I know I said this earlier. I'm going to twist it a little bit because I want to clarify. You are exactly where you are by all your choices and stuff, but you probably didn't do that consciously. In other words, you didn't decide, I'm going to end up here. I didn't decide to be 50 years old, broke, and unemployed. No, you didn't decide that. That wasn't a destination you chose, but your thoughts, emotions, actions, habits led you there. Now I want you to become proactively in control of your life. So I want you to only go to destinations and arrive in places you chose. Choose where you want to be in those 7 areas of your life. You've already ended up just kind of meandering and ending up someplace just because kind of that's where you ended up. Now, if you really analyzed yourself, you'd realize there were plenty of moments where you had choices and you made the wrong one. You took the easier path, the least resistance path, something like that. So in a sense, you did choose to end up where you are when you chose not to get a different skill set for a better career, when you chose not to get some education, when you chose not to eat differently, when you chose not, whatever it was in whatever area, right? And so you made these choices, but you weren't really thinking about the consequence or the destination they were taking you to. What I want you to do is I want you to get control over your life. Own your life. So in those 7 areas, choose where you want to be in all of them. And then start working in those directions. Okay, so look, you were given this body, this life that you have, right? And I think it really fits into like the parable of like the talents, you know, where you're supposed to be a good steward of what he gives you. And he put you here to see what you're going to do with what he gave you. And I'm wondering how impressed he is with what you're doing with what he gave you. Existing is not why he gave you life. Okay? He didn't give you life to exist. He gave you life to live. All right? If your current your current location that you are here is a level of just existing, just getting by, that's not the right level. You want to be at a level of, I picked this level to thrive in. Now, bear in mind, you could have handicaps and issues that make it hard to get to the highest of levels that maybe some other people get, but thrive in it to the best of your ability. All right? You need to thrive in these things to the best of your ability. All right? Now, in my notes, I have this, right? It's perfectly worked out here. So, remember when I talked about the idea that I want you to be hyper curious and aware of you? I mean, I want you to be super aware of how you think, how you feel, what you do. Now, one of the things that I want you to really find now as far as going up in these levels is you need to be incredibly curious about what your actual, not perceived, not somebody else put it there, actual limits are. Okay? Because maybe you actually have something going on in your health that there's only so far you can go, but you can go. You can get somewhere better than maybe where you are now, right? Maybe you've got some limits in something because of age or this or that or whatever that actually is a limiter. But be honest with yourself. Is it an excuse or is it an actual reason, right? Reasons are real, okay? All right, so then you have to look and see if it's a reason. Now, bear in mind, somebody who's got no legs could say, well, I can't run. Well, actually, no, you can get prosthetics and run. There's lots of people that run. I'm just saying, is it an excuse or a reason? Be careful that your excuse that looks really valid as a reason is not just an excuse. But I want you to be incredibly curious about and figure out what your actual limits are. And I promise you, they're further than you think. Because your mind is limited right now. What you believe is possible is limited right now. All right? You got to figure out your capacity. Don't let others decide it for you. Anybody have a doctor say, well, you'll never do this again, or you'll never do that? Or you heard stories like that? And then you see people who are running around and doing whatever who were told they would never do it again. You don't let others decide your capacity and your limits. You got to pick what you can do. And how do you know if you can do it? Try. And figure out if the reason you're not able to do it is because you just are missing a skill set or some information or a plan or strategy, or is it because you literally can't do it? Okay? Make the effort. You have to figure out you. All right? Let's see. There's something else I want to say with the limits. All right, so just, I use this example. I mean, it's the one that we all kind of know, a lot of us know about. But, you know, it used to be this idea that if you broke the 4-minute mile, your heart would explode. So nobody did. Until a guy one day decided, I think I can break this thing. And so they told him he was going to die. Okay, so think about it. You have people in your life saying, you'll never amount to nothing. You're dumb, you're this, you're useless. Oh, if you bought into that, you would be all of that. Everybody believed you couldn't do this thing, you'd die. So guess what? He broke the record, and he didn't die. And that same year, like 5 other people did the same thing. because he showed them they wouldn't die, which means that they were always capable of doing it. They just limited themselves. You understand? How much are you limiting yourself? I think it's kind of crazy, actually, because you're thinking you could be in the kingdom. You're thinking you could become Elohim. You're thinking you can be elevated into this amazing thing, and you're right, you can. Then why do you think you can't do anything else? Why do you limit other things? You're already aiming at the biggest, crazy-sounding thing of all. I'm going to live forever and be an Elohim. I'm going to be, like John says, when we are changed, we'll be like them. So we'll see them as they are, right? The Father and the Son. You believe that? Of course you do. Well, then why can't you believe other things? Why can't you believe you can fix your finances or get your health in shape or fix a relationship or become better in the community? Why don't you think you can do that? Maybe you don't think you really can get to the kingdom. Christianity, of course, lied to you and said, well, just believe and you're in. Well, no. He wants to see you do the thoughts, emotions, actions, habits that lead to the kingdom. The kingdom's a destination like any other one, okay? You got to think a certain way. You got to have emotions that match up and that lead to actions like, eating kosher, keeping Sabbath, being here on a feast day, okay? Not stealing, not murdering, etc. There's habits, actions, habits. That all leads to the destination called, well done, good and trustworthy servant. Come and enter into the joy of the master. That doesn't happen just because you figured out that there is a master. Okay, good for you. You know there's a God and that he has a son and the son died for you. That doesn't do anything for you if you don't do the rest. So understand, these things are doable, but I want you to figure out what's doable for you. How high up can you go? Challenge yourself. So I heard this the other day. If your targets, your goals don't intimidate you, they're too small. All right? Now, intimidate you doesn't mean like it's crazy outlandish. You need to kind of break it down to steps, okay? If you're broker than broke and can't pay your bills and you want to be a millionaire, the goal shouldn't be millionaire. The first goal should be not broke. The bigger goal above that is millionaire. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to break it down. But if you still have worked hard all these years, whatever it is, to not be broke, and you have failed at that, that's still a little bit of an intimidating thing. I have to make a budget? Okay. That's intimidating. I've got so many people that come to me and elders saying, can you help us? And really what you're asking is, can you make my budget for me? How many times you get that, elder? All the time, right? And by the way, the answer always is no. Because you need to learn there's so much information that you learn about you and money when you make your own budget. I can't do it for you. You'll learn nothing. But you got to make those choices. See, it's you that decides how much I want to spend on entertainment, how much I want to spend on coffee. A lot of you guys spend a lot of money, go out there and buy coffee. Or you go and, you eat out. Or you buy snacks. Or you pay for all of these different apps and different entertainment sources, and you got all these things that you pay for subscriptions. You made those choices. You have to be the one who makes the choice to cut any of those out. I can't make them for you. I could tell you, well, this is dumb, you can't afford it, this is dumb, you can't. I can do all that. You're just going to be mad at me. But if you say, this is dumb, I need to not do this, I can't afford it at the moment, all right? By the way, here's an interesting thing that will happen down the road. Let's say you get your finances fixed. Mine are now fixed, okay? Did you hear what I said, though? Fixed. I've been broke. I've been bankrupt. I've messed with my finances and done dumb things. I'm 62. I've done everything that you can imagine, okay? But I've got them fixed. So now there's times where I go to, like I'm watching something, and I'm so tired of watching the ads. And I'm thinking, I can afford the little bit that they wanted me to pay so I don't have to watch ads anymore. I could put that in my budget. But it's still hard for me to do it because I'm used to doing what I did to not be broke anymore. So it's funny how it can go the other way. You know how long it took me to finally pay for YouTube, whatever, so I don't have to watch the ads? Years and years of just sitting there going, ugh. And then I'm like, but it's only a few bucks, and I have it now. So understand that this is the intimidation level. It's got to be something that stretches you. Aim at a destination that's challenging in your mind to see yourself there. Okay? Something that's just out of reach. Don't pick something simple that you can do. Okay? That's a step to the destination. Okay? Doing simple, small things every day gets you there. All right? So maybe the first thing is, I'm not going to go out and buy coffee anymore. All right, that's a good step. That's not a big target. That's not a tough target. That's a simple thing, doesn't stretch you very much. More stretching you would be, I'm going to balance my budget so that I don't have, you know, the problem most people have is they run out of money before the end of the month, right? They have more month at the end of the money. You want to have more money at the end of the month. So maybe that's your first target, is that you have actually more money at the end of the month. Maybe for some of you, your target is, I'd like to tithe properly, but I'm so broke I can't. And that's true. I get that. You could be broke where it's really impossible to tithe. Not impossible to give a widow's mite, though, to do something. At least just show Father, hey, I'm trying to do something. But you know, rather than doing the things he says, you're doing these other things and your budget is all messed up, okay? With the finances, we're not going to talk about them much more today because we're going to do a whole session or two on that, but that's probably going to be a big chunk. Two things that are going to be a really big chunk is health and finances. The other ones will be a little quicker, okay? And relationships. I guess those three we'll try to get. But understand this, okay? It's very important. Okay, when it comes to the finances, when you tithe, when you do a budget, what it's going to do is it's going to let you know where there's two problems. One is, the problem might be that your spending is foolish. We'll call that leaks in the budget, right? The budget has a leak where money's just flowing out of it. The second thing you might realize, you just don't make enough money. Okay? Now bear in mind, this is really, I'm not picking on anybody here. It's hard for me, it saddens me, and it frustrates me, not in a bad way. I feel bad when the 50-year-old person comes to me who's only making $20 an hour, doesn't understand why he can't pay his bills and take care of his family, or the 40-year-old, because they never aimed high enough. And I'm like, dude, there's no way he's a solution now. You're going to have to retool, work double time, and whatever it is you have to do to fix this problem. So for all you young people, you need to aim at where you need to be in the future now. You need to be aiming at it. Here, let me draw something. All right. So here you are, let's say at, we'll just say 20, okay? I have a little timeline here. And this is 60 plus, okay? All right, here's your timeline, all right? I'm going to give you a thought that came to me a long time ago, and I've said it. You probably can live still in this economy, at least I'm talking about the United States, okay? I don't know what it is in your country if you're in another country because the dollar is different in terms of how strong it is versus other currencies. But here in the U.S., all right, you can probably live and take care of what you need to if you at least make your age per hour. You can't go to your boss and say, I need to get paid my age per hour, okay? You got to go find a job that actually pays your age per hour. So the problem is this. You get a really nice job, at least whatever you think, as a 20-year-old that happens to pay you $20 an hour, maybe even more, $22 an hour. You think, hey, this is great. Okay, but $22 an hour, well, let's say we'll put 22 down here, right? $22 an hour, that's not going to do you very well over here when you're 40 and you're married and you got 3 kids. Now what? And they're starting to head towards college. Because that's just not going to do it, okay? Because your age per hour, just so you can do the math on it real simply, so whatever you make per hour, okay, just double that, all right? If you double that, and then you make it into thousands, right? So $20 an hour is $40,000 a year, roughly, right? So you got to be making like $80,000 a year here. Anybody think that at 40, if they're making $80K, they'd be doing okay? I think you might still be struggling. All right? Some of you are like, I never even thought of making $80,000 a year. Well, but that's why you're going to end up in this. This is where it really gets ugly, all right? Hopefully this shows up, okay? This is where it gets very red and, ugly over here. If you don't do it down here, that's a problem, all right? This is why people end up broke at 65. Not because of what they did at 55, but because of what they did at 25. They didn't plan a career path to get them where they needed to be. All right? Same thing. Let's take this whole thing and say, okay, you're single. You want to be married. Okay? So there's a destination here to marriage. Well, guess what? You got to become the person that is good for that. If you don't become somebody that's marriageable, ready for marriage, able to handle marriage, you're going to get into marriage, it's going to go bad. It's going to be, you're going to make bad choices in getting married too. If you don't know what to look for in a spouse, see, when you're single, here you got to learn what to look for in a spouse, how to become the good other side of that thing. Let's say you're a man, okay? How do I find the right woman? How do I become the right kind of man to be a good husband and a father? If you're a woman, how do I become the type of woman that's a good wife and a mother? How do I become, how do I look for a man and know what a man looks like versus a boy? All right? Okay, there's things to do here that lead eventually to the marriage, right? Because all of you are like, well, I don't know where to find somebody. Find somebody. Are you even ready? No, I know emotionally you're ready because you want to get married. You're tired of being alone. Also, especially for the ladies, you like somebody to take care of you, not have to take all the bills on yourself. I get that. Some of the ladies make plenty of money, do fine for themselves, but I know it'd be nice not to have that burden. And guys, you want a wonderful wife? Are you able to take care of them? Did you work on that number that by the time you get married, you can take care of them? See, you're going to end up in these places, okay? Places meaning you're going to end up 40. That's a destination you can't stop, okay? You're going to get there. And then 60. Unless you don't live that long, but most people are going to make it through those levels. Those are destinations that are hard and fast. You can't change them. What you can change is what you look like, what life is like when you get there. Okay? Now, some of you might think, well, I'm already 65. Well, good. Most people live into their 90s now. You still got 30 years to have fun with or be miserable. All right? I'm 62. I'm just getting started. Okay? I'm not thinking, oh, we got to retire now and just think about, that's boring. Okay, so. All right, just for me as an ENTP read. But anyway, so the thing is, you guys got to be thinking about the future. Now, for some of you, we can go back and use the cognitive function stuff. If your N is not working very good, your intuition is not working very good, you're not thinking ahead. Where is this leading to? What I'm doing right now, where's it going? Because if you're running more in your senses, in your sensing, right, the S, you're in the moment or you're in the past. You're not thinking about the future. Now, some of you think, but I do think about the future. Not enough with enough clarity because it's not what's driving. That's not your driving, perceiving function, okay? And so you end up in the future. You get there. You go from 20 to 30 to 40, but did you do the things so that you would be successful at what 40 needs to look like? Some of these things are hard to fix in a hurry, like finances. Can't fix that in a hurry. If you're broke in 55, you're going to probably be broke at 65 if you don't make some really major changes. If you're broke at 20, you got lots of time to fix 65. I don't mean time to sit around and wait. I mean you got lots of time to do the building blocks to get there. So you guys need to own this. This is your growth, your life, hopefully not your existence, but your life, okay? Okay, this is important. Let's see if I missed anything on my notes here. I covered that. Let's see. All right, now, here's another thing I heard. I love these little, simple phrases. You can't steer a parked car. Get it moving, then steer. Now, some of you don't understand this, young people, but we didn't have power steering. So you really couldn't steer a parked car. So that phrase doesn't make sense to young people. Sure, I could turn the wheel when it's parked. Yeah, you can do that now. You needed the car to be moving to steer it when there wasn't. And I'm talking about like just regular steering, not power assist, which was the next level up, which gave you a little bit of help, and then power steering. So you really can't steer a parked car. So some of you are like, well, I don't know what to do. Do something. Okay? How about fire, ready, aim? Do something. While you're getting ready, just do something and then aim. Okay, so I shot and I fired and I'm not going exactly, so I need to aim it. At least I'm moving. I can steer it if I'm moving. Okay? So I like that one. You can't steer a parked car. I got another one. Even if you're on the right road, if you're not moving, you can still get run over. Like that one? Those are all from Amway tapes. Well, that last one was from years ago. Let's see. When your mind says you're done, you're probably only at 40% capacity. When you start to go for quit, you're probably only at 40% capacity. Or something certainly less than 100. Okay? How do I know this? I was a personal trainer. I was sitting there watching somebody do reps, and they'd be like, done. I'm like, no, one more, let's go. And they're like, done. No, one more. I could get another 4 or 5 out of them. Your mind is going to want to quit before you actually should quit. You got to win the battle of the mind. I can't do this. Yes, you can. More than you think you can. And you need to prove it to yourself by doing. I'll give you an example of when I say that there are some actual limits, and you got to figure out where they are. I was in a martial arts class. This is 1980-something. And the teacher put us in a stance and told us that he wanted to see who could hold that stance the longest. He wanted to see what kind of quit people had in them. I made a simple decision. I wasn't going to quit, but if my leg gave out, I would fall. That's my limiter. I can't make my legs hold me together if they just start to finally just spasm out and fall. But I wasn't going to quit. Didn't matter what it hurt, didn't matter how it felt. I wasn't, if my body gave out, that was the limit I was going to give it. I couldn't decide how long it could go. I just wasn't going to quit. You see what I'm saying? Find your limit. I already decided what my limit was, the physical body not being able to go any further. And there may be some limits like that. Your physical body may not be able to go beyond a certain point in some area, in certain things. So find some things that are limiters, okay, and things that are just obstacles, road bumps, okay? Let's say, for example, you want to own your own house, and there's no way at the moment you think you can do that. Fine. Then let's start building up to that. You start aiming at targets that can get you toward. What do I need to do to do that? So it's not really a limited thing. Right now it's limited. I can't do it. I don't have enough money. So I'm limited in what I can do. I got to rent. I got to do whatever, right? And so recognize what is limiting you, but is it a hard roadblock thing, like a hard stop, or is it just a temporary thing that I can fix by getting the other elements that I need to overcome this obstacle? So is it a speed bump or is it a wall? By the way, some walls you can punch through, okay? But you only know what you can do, and you're only going to know if you push. You're going to have to really push. You got to push. You got to push. You got to push through it. That's like having the coach that's sitting there, be that coach in your head saying, come on, just one more. I was watching a guy. I recommend you guys look this guy up. I think it's called Do Hard Things 365, something like that, all right? This guy is doing a push-up challenge where starting on January 1st, he did 5 push-ups. January 2nd, he did 10 push-ups. January 3rd, he did 15 push-ups, 5 more a day. He's up to like 1,410 push-ups, okay? He's going all the way to the end of the year, which will be in the 1,600s, I think. Now, this guy, it's incredible what he can do. And actually, 1,600 is not much. He said he's done 4,000. So, I mean, for him, that's not maybe a big deal. And when I say 4,000 or 1,600, he does it in one session. So he's in the push-up position, and then he does a bunch of push-ups, and then he holds the push-up position. Never puts his knees down, never sticks his butt in the air like to stretch his shoulders, nothing. You got to see this. It's amazing. And it takes him about an hour and a half. Could you imagine holding a plank for an hour and a half? Because that's all, basically what he's doing, holding himself out there. But this is the point I want to make, though. Not only is he demonstrating that things are maybe beyond what you thought are capable, So he does these things live, and he has people chatting with him on TikTok or whatever while he's doing this on YouTube or whatever live and TikTok live. So there was a guy that saw him. He often does this out in public, right there on the street, right on the sidewalk somewhere. Some guy walked by, was inspired by him, got on one of his TikTok lives. I happened to be watching this. He was about to start 1,200, whatever he was up to that day. And he said to the guy, well, how many are you up to? He says, well, I'm up to 90. He said, well, let's do the first 90 together. So they were doing it together. When they got to 90, he says, come on, let's go. Let's do them, because sometimes they do 10 at a time, might do 8. He said, let's do 5. The guy struggled. He said, okay, let's do 3. The guy did his 3. He said, well, let's do 2. He got the guy to about 104. Because he was just with him going, come on, let's just do 1. Come on, let's do another one. Until the guy finally couldn't, his body just gave out. He couldn't do another one. Okay? But when I watch this guy, I'm like, I never thought what he does is possible. It never occurred to me to even think about doing it. And I watch him, and I can do a lot of push-ups, okay? Because when I was in martial arts, anytime you made a mistake, you did 20 push-ups. So 20 push-ups you could do with, like, breathing, okay? But 100, 1,400, 1,600, wow, all right? You can look him up. I mean, he does it every day, and he does it live, so you know he's doing it, right? And his form is perfect. He even created this sort of button that his chest hits, and that button sends a signal through a wire to an LED so you can see how many push-ups it is. And you hear the click. I think he started he's an MIT grad, so he started a little GoFundMe so he can actually sell these things. But it's kind of cool. So you know he's doing it. I mean, his form is incredible. His 1,400th one is just as good as his first one. Just to know what a body is capable of. I mean, how many of you thought you could actually do 1,000 push-ups straight? I never thought you could do that. Okay? My little brother tried to get the record in elementary school to do 100 push-ups. His body could not get the 100th one out. He got 99. But he wasn't stopping. But you think, well, stopping then helps. Really? You want to just stand there in the push-up position and just hold that? So you know how he did this? One of the videos, he explained this. This is good for your leveling up. He said he would hold a plank for a minute. Do that for a couple of days, then he would add 30 seconds. Do that for a couple of days, then he would add a minute at a time. Did that for a couple of whatever, then he would add 5 minutes at a time. So he built it up where he could hold it for an hour or two. And while he's holding it, he'll let go with one arm, grab something, drink some water, put it back, go back to the position, grab something, put it in his mouth, eat it while he's got some grapes or something, And he just and he's talking the whole time. On his chat, I'm like, oh my gosh, how is he able to do all this? We're capable of more than we think. I give you that story to inspire you, not necessarily to do 1,000 push-ups, but to realize I didn't know anybody could do that, and he makes it look easy, but it's not easy how he got there, right? He had to start off doing 5. Now, of course, when he did this challenge, he'd already been able to do thousands of them. But when he first started, he would just keep doing more and more and hold the position, do more and more. So he'll talk, he'll do 10 in a row, 15 in a row, then he'll talk for a little bit, he'll do another 10 or 15, but he's not moving, he's not getting up. He's not resting. I'm inspired by this. As a matter of fact, I started doing a bunch more push-ups recently. Push-ups is great for you, okay? Some of you are like, I can't even do 1. That is terrible thinking. Right now, where you are, you can't do 1. You are capable of doing 1. You're capable of probably doing 10 or 15 or more. You just got to work your way to it. All right? We can talk about that more when we get to the health stuff. I'm just trying to inspire you with some of these stories to know we are just scratching the surface in our own minds of what's possible. Okay? What we think is impossible more often than not is possible. You're just thinking it's impossible for you where you are in that current destination. Does that make sense? You where you are at that moment in that destination, you can't do that right then. That's true, okay? Right now, I can't do 100 straight push-ups with holding the thing and rest, whatever he does, right? I can't do that. I'm going to get there, though, and then we'll see where I go from there. It just takes one destination. So my first destination would be to see, I could do 20, 30 at a time, not a problem, fine. But now I want to see if I could do 10 or 20 at a time, and then wait and rest, and then do another 2 or 3. Then rest in that plank, and do another. I got to see what I can do. I'm only used to just doing them all in a row and not stopping. Okay? So that's changing my thought process. Okay, now I got to learn how to plank. I may just do what he did. Hold it for a minute or two. Every week or so, add another half a minute, add a minute, just keep going further. Look, if you never really ran any distances or jogged any distances, so go like pick a target on your street or whatever. I'm going to run to that tree, and then next time, run a little further. Just build and expand and push yourself, all right? Push yourself. Push yourself in your relationships. Push yourself in your finances. Push yourself in every area of your life. Figure out what you can actually, you'll be so proud of yourself and feel so good to realize you could do more than you ever thought you could. Wouldn't that be great to feel good about yourself like that? See, some of you guys wonder maybe why I'm always walking around this like this, right? Bubbly and excited and energized. Because I'm always trying to figure out new things that I'm capable of doing. So I'm always optimistic about what the new challenge is going to be and how I'm going to figure out how to overcome it and what the steps are going to be and the kind of person I got to become to actually be able to do it, right? What changes are going to be necessary for me to do these things? So it's very exciting. All right, so it's now 11:15. I'm thinking, do you guys have questions at this point? Yes. Okay, we'll take some questions, and then we'll go into the next round. So, okay. Ashley.
Shalom, Rabbi. Sorry, I was finishing my question. I have a first question, but I'm not going to consistently ask it because it goes into a better question, I think, if I may, to keep my thought pattern continual. Limits. Are breaks considered soft quitting? And if not, how do you find an appropriate place to take a break? Balance has always been a major issue with me. That was my first question. And then if I may, I think I turned it into a better question to continue my thought. New and better question. If you consistently and stay constant to continue better oneself in the particular category that you're working on, then there is not 100% because that bar will always be continually going higher. So the 100% turns into infinite measurement. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay, so let me kind of explain your thing here. All right? Oh, that's okay. All right. So the first thing you said, okay, you were asking about breaks. I was thinking about the second thing you said, and I forgot what the first thing was. Okay, breaks. Okay, so, right, you're here. The destination is here. Doesn't matter if it's relationships or money or health or what, okay? Certain things require, now, of course, community and other things, you can't do that every day all the time, so you don't need breaks from that because it's not something you're doing all the time. But we're talking probably things like relationships, finances, and health. Those are the things that are constant all the time. Okay? So for those to be effective, this is the most important thing, is you want to be effective, okay? Effective, all right? What happens when I go to capital letters? All right, you want to be effective. So you could go all day straight through, and that might have a certain level of effect, okay? So let's say that gets you to, we'll call that X, okay? That's whatever that is, okay? That's your effectiveness. Now, what if you took a break here, here, and here, and then you saw how effective that was? Maybe that's X plus 5. Maybe you're actually more effective taking scheduled, planned for, chosen on purpose breaks. Does that make sense? Okay? Did that answer that? So it's not like I'm being lazy or I'm being complacent to take a break necessarily. All right? We need rest. Okay, if you can't just go all the time. Okay, like theoretically, you could work 24 hours a day. You can go get 3 jobs, 8 hours a day, and you'd fall apart. You'd have to sleep, right? So you got to figure out what is the efficient, effective way for you to get things done. Okay, so everybody's going to be a little different. Okay, so when you take a break, how about doing it with purpose? And decide I'm taking a 2-hour break, I'm taking a 4-hour break, I need to take a day break, or whatever it is, but you have a reason and a plan to get back on the schedule and back on the growth path, right? But the break will often, if you use it properly, accelerate your progress, not decelerate it, because you need to take the foot off the gas every now and then on a schedule with purpose. Does that make sense? Okay? Not just, oh, I'm just feeling too overwhelmed. Maybe you might need to push through that. Or you might say, you know what? I need to take a break, reset, and then come back to it. So I can't say that a certain feeling requires a certain response. Some things you might want to, actually all things, initially, try pushing through them just to see what happens. And you may realize there's a degrading of the effectiveness. Okay, let's do this. All right, so you got your graph scale, all right? So if your effectiveness is starting to do this, then you might need to take a break so that it starts to go back up, okay? So you need to be monitoring your effectiveness. So what we're hoping for is that your effectiveness is pretty steady, and as soon as you start to see it decline, that's maybe where you need to take a break, all right? But you might want to see, can I push through this and bring it back up? Maybe you can. Maybe you need a break, okay? And so that's the kind of thing. It's just about it being effective. Now, you gave me a good reason to bring up something else that was in my notes. There's a guy out there that wrote a book called The 4-Hour Work Week. He also wrote a book called The 4-Hour Body, okay? And the thing with, and this will all be in the book list I have for you guys too, okay? I've got a reference list and things that'll be on the website. Now, the concept that he talked about in the 4-Hour Work Week and a 4-Hour Body, really, but more in the 4-Hour Body, which was a health book, which was a thing called the minimum effective dose. Okay? MED, the minimum effective dose. Because he found out that people working out for 4 hours are not being more effective than somebody working out for 15 minutes if they know how to do the right exercise in the right way and get the actual effective dose. Sometimes more doesn't get you more. Does that make sense? So what you need to find out is the minimum effective dose. I'll tell you how that could work. Some people in ministry have really destroyed their relationships with their family members because they put so much into it all the time, or an entrepreneur in business, or some other thing that takes all your time will then take it away from other things. And so I can tell you that I've done, I believe, a fairly good job of making sure that my wife and my children always got the minimum effective dose at least. In other words, effective by their standard. You understand what I'm saying? I gave them at least what they needed all the time, just the minimum that they would need to maintain when I couldn't give them more. I never let them be neglected where they didn't at least get, on a daily basis, as they needed it, that minimum effective dose. But that you have to learn, each child is different, your wife or your husband is different, people and what they need is going to be different. You have to find out what's the minimum effective dose for you in terms of, what your capacity is, all right? Look, I give you an example. I learned I can't. It doesn't function. I can't go to bed before 1 or 2 in the morning. Some of you are like, really? I won't sleep. It'll take me a half hour to fall asleep instead of 5 minutes, and I'll wake up 4 hours later if I go to bed at 10 or 11. But if I go to bed at 1 or 2, I can sleep a good solid 7 if I want. No problem. Fall asleep instantaneously. It's not because I'm so tired. It's my body clock. So I'm not even that tired necessarily when I do go to bed at 1 or 2, but that's my rhythm. My circadian rhythm is that, okay? My rhythm is that. So you got to learn your rhythm. You got to learn your thing. You may need more breaks, okay? I used to use the tomato timer thing. Everybody knows what that is, okay? All right, so basically for ADHD people, ADD people, that's a good thing to use. So they used to have in the kitchen a little thing, looks like a tomato, had a timer on it. So what you do is you focus on your task for, say, 20, 25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break. And they actually have websites where you can actually have the timer go off and make noise so you know every 20 minutes, whatever you want to do. And so it's easier for us ADD people to focus in short term, okay, and then take a break sometimes. Now, sometimes if you're going on a roll, you just keep going. And you can skip the break, all right? But you got to learn you. Okay, I don't just take the break because the timer goes off. If I'm doing great, I just hit reset and just go another 25 minutes. You understand what I'm saying? So it's learning you.
Thank you, sir. And that was actually my other question I wanted to ask, because I'm very ADHD when we're dark gets room. If I'm doing well in a project, then it's okay to skip that break?
Why are you having a break?
So my mind can take a breather, and because if I'm working so hard, I'm worried about burnout in the end. So that's
Well,
based-
wait.
no,
Well, why are you worried about burnout? Are you not aware of your body and your mind?
I'm working on that. So at
Do you
this
understand what I'm
moment, no.
saying, everybody? You following that? Burnout is an issue that somebody should be concerned of, but you should know what burnout starts to feel like, what the symptoms are, so you can catch it when it first starts, right? Being hyper aware of yourself. Learn what the triggers are or the early symptoms are of burnout so that you don't snap. And so you say, oh, I'm realizing, it's kind of like some of you that are staying up and you're like, you're starting to get tired and you realize you read the same page 4 times. Or you restarted the video 6 times. So go to bed. You got the symptoms there to tell you need to rest, okay? Well, the same thing. If you're hitting what people call overwhelm or burnout or whatever, learn what does that look like early on? So let's say you hit a burnout moment. Play the whole thing back in your mind and go, okay, what were the early symptoms that I might have missed so I could have not ended up in burnout, okay? Then you take a break. So when I said to you, why are you taking a break? The question is because you should only have a break if there's a reason, okay? I'm taking a break because I need to give honey bunny time to my wife. I'm taking a break because I know I need to give my daughter a call. In other words, there's things that are scheduled in that need to happen. Or I'm taking a break because my brain is not focused anymore. I need to redirect it and then bring it back. All right? Does that help?
Yes. So just to verify or to clarify, that dip can be considered a start of a burnout, correct?
Right.
Okay.
If you're effective, look, breaks are very important tools for anytime your effectiveness starts to go down. Okay? Now, it may not be a break like you need rest. Maybe you need a break to reevaluate what you're doing. Maybe you just need to stop and say, okay, I'm not being very effective right now. Maybe I need to make an adjustment. So I might not need to stop. I may just realize that what I was doing that was effective for a while is not effective right now. Okay? And then you make an adjustment. So it's a pause in the action that could be a few moments so you can make an adjustment, or it could be that I really need to take a sort of a break. All right? Okay. Now, let me kind of add more to that. I want everybody to understand ADD, ADHD is not an inability to focus. Okay, we can focus plenty. We just focus on too many things. So it's focus overwhelm or too many focuses, not the inability to focus. So what ADD people need to do is have certain things to occupy parts of your mind. I'm always playing music in the background, okay? Something that I don't have to consciously interact with. I won't play a teaching or anything that I'm learning on the background because I gotta focus on that. I can't focus on 2 things. But I can put something that I don't need to focus on that still is pulling some of my mind, so now I can focus. So if you ever see those of us that need to have noise and something else happening in the background, that's part of the reason, okay? It's like, how could you focus with all that going on? I need that going on to take that little parts of my brain that are distracting me, let them focus on that, I can focus on this, okay? Just something to tell you. Caffeine helps too for a lot of ADD people. It does help focus. If it puts you to sleep, don't do it. No, coffee will put ADD people to sleep sometimes. All right? It works the reverse. It doesn't keep us up at night. We can drink that and go right to bed. It is what it is. All right. Stephen.
Thank you, Rabbi. So I found myself in a lot of things being intolerable for me, the way I'm living, things like that, as far as like financial and everything else, especially when I'm over my 40s and I'm definitely not making my age and dollars per hour, which I'm definitely working on. But it seems like, and I'm just kind of looking for clarification here, like how Deuteronomy 8:2 talks about how we're basically being tried to see if we really want it, basically, and to see if we're going to push through and what we're really made of. It almost feels like I've been facing that in this walk of life, as far as not necessarily spiritual, but as far as being able to accomplish things. I've had a slow start, made a lot of mistakes growing up, got involved in gangbanging, drugs, things of that nature, made a lot of bad choices. I was an apprenticed nator at one point, and then I became a procrastinator. So I made a lot of mistakes, but basically I've wasted a lot of time. And now I find myself, it almost seems like it's harder because I took longer to do it. So I'm in a major acceleration of leveling up, if you will. I went from a half-finished associate's in 2017 to a master's degree, associate's, bachelor's, master's in 4.5 years. I'm working myself up, but I'm trying to balance living in an intolerable state to the point to where I'm making changes, but at the same time being content and happy with almost what I have at the same time, and I'm having a hard time balancing that.
Sure. All right, just real quick. I'm not sure how you guys in the back have this to switch to the 11:30, switch to the session 2.